pressure on Apple, by the way, which has its own unique relationship with the Chi-Coms that is sometimes precarious. So I think Trump is going to prevail on this. Now, I want to move to what's happening in France. Have you seen at all in the last week any video out of France? What's happening over there? Just a few seconds, huh? Here's the thing about this. Isn't Europe utopia? Isn't Europe showing us the way? Don't our elites tell us that our future is emulating Europe? From trains to climate change to immigration, the Europeans are doing it right. The Europeans have got it down pat, right? Well, in this case, the Europeans, the French, are doing exactly what the global climate change political movement wants done. This young little whippersnapper president has put a massive tax on carbon, which has driven the price of gasoline to over $7 a gallon. Now, they want you to believe, to the extent that they're reporting this, that, interestingly, to the media wants you to believe that it's extreme leftists that are wearing the yellow vests and are protesting. That's not who's protesting. You know who's protesting in France? The middle class. You may not know this. They're sometimes called the yellow vest crowd. The reason is, in France, you are required to have a yellow vest in your car. In case your car has a breakdown or an accident, you're to put that on so that you're seen at night by emergency personnel or others. It's for your safety. So everybody's wearing the yellow vest. It's the middle class, and they're protesting over climate change. They're protesting this carbon tax, which is exactly what the worldwide left wants to happen in the United States. They're protesting this massive increase in the price of gasoline. And it is the worst protests that have taken place in Paris, in all of France, since 1968. It is devastating, and it's happening in the elite sections, like near the Champs-Élysées. And it's got this new French president totally nonplussed because he thought this was the route to instant love, to instant popularity. Why everybody believes in climate change. Everybody wants to save the planet. Everybody hates fossil fuels. Everybody hates pollution. Everybody this, everybody that. This young, impressionable little guy has been led to the trough by a bunch of worldwide leftists, and he's bought hook, line, and sinker this literal bilge and drivel that they've been teaching him. So he slaps this massive tax, and now he's got the middle class in his country revolting. Boston had its problems with tea. The French are having problems with gasoline. I think energy prices are probably more important to people than tea. Now, this is going to be an interesting winter in Paris. And I hope it doesn't get too cold, because a lot of people use fossil fuels to heat their homes. And when people can't afford to heat their homes as well as drive their cars, they tend to get grouchy. You know, I'm wondering why this isn't a bigger story in the drive-by media. Riots in utopian Europe over fuel taxes. Yeah, don't let that become a thing. See, fuel taxes like this are part and parcel of saving the planet. Fuel taxes, carbon tax, gasoline prices way over $7. That's what we have to do, folks, to save the planet. That's what these global climate change, global warming people are after. You're seeing it in Paris. This is exactly what they want. This is what it's going to take to save the planet if what they say is true, which it isn't. Man is not responsible for climate change, and gasoline and fossil fuels aren't the reason why temperatures raise and lower and climate change creating greenhouse gases. None of this is fact. It's all nothing but computer models. There is none, zero empirical evidence for any of the allegations they're making. You wonder why this is not a bigger story in the drive-by media, because this isn't supposed to happen. Europe is utopia. Europe is showing the way. Europe is enlightened. Europe is so far ahead of us, like the Chi-Coms are in infrastructure, don't you know? And so the French people, they're supposed to be happy. They're supposed to be praising Macron. They're supposed to be hoisting him up and saying, what a great guy, he's saving us from destruction. They don't care about any of that. They can't afford gasoline, and they are livid. So this little guy cannot create his own utopia. It's the exact opposite. I'm telling you, France is enduring the worst protests. These are riots. Since the student protests of May 1968, the American media doing its best to downplay all of this because the current rioters are protesting tax increases Macron has put on gas and diesel to fight climate change. He has been specific as to why the carbon tax is in place to fight climate change. Stunned Parisians clean up posh Central District after worst riot since 1968. You know what's been overheard in some of the cheering over there? I kid you not. I know friends who are there. There are some people wearing the yellow vests chanting, "We want Trump," among the rioters in Paris. We want Trump. But Europe, it's supposed to be, oh my God, Europe is, it's utopia. Europe is the way. Europe is showing us how to live. Bo hunk to that. At the G20, in a related story, G20 leaders, this is in thehill.com, G20 leaders agree on trade. Trump bucks others on climate. There may never be, I hope I'm wrong about this, there may never be another president with the guts to stand athwart all of these various hysterias that the left creates. This particular climate change hysteria inspired by a desire to seize control of the energy sector. The same kind of hysteria that inspired the desire to seize control of the healthcare industry. You control people's healthcare and their energy supply, and you own them. And it is no mystery why the worldwide left is producing and promoting virtual communism here. Because that's really what's going on. All of these protests in this country, around the world, the caravan, you name it, everything aimed as a protest in this country is sponsored by Marxists and communists somewhere. And the worldwide global left is nothing but a bunch of communists. And they want control, and they are doing their best to seize it. And so what this was about, these nations at the G20, you know what they did? They reaffirmed their support for the Paris Accords. Let me tell you one more time. The Paris Accords are non-binding. The Paris Accords are pure PR. It's simply every nation agreeing to try to limit CO2 emissions over the next, 10, 20 years. It's just a promise. It's just a pledge. It's just, nobody's committed to it. Nobody is going to be held accountable to it. There is no missing it and paying or suffering any kind of penalty. It's just nothing but a bunch of people. Yeah, okay, we'll try. We'll try to limit our CO2 emissions by X in the next 20 years. They're all signing it because it's nothing more than a PR enterprise. It just allows people to leave the meeting. Yes, I've committed to trying to limit the CO2 emissions of our little country here by X amount over the next 20 years. Yay, you're trying, you're working up. But nobody's committing to doing it because it can't be done. Trump is saying he's not going to play the game. He's not going to sign this latest attempt. And he's been joined by somebody. It's so great when somebody else has the courage to get on board. In this case, it is the newly appointed foreign minister of Brazil, Ernesto Frego Araujo, who starts his new job in January under the new president, Jair Bolsonaro. The newly appointed foreign minister in Brazil has stated that the climate change issue was invented by cultural Marxists to help push a globalist agenda that is anti-growth and anti-Christian, and this showed up in both the UK Guardian and the UK Daily Mail. He went further. He said, socialism is criminalizing faith in God, criminalizing patriotism, criminalizing biology by prohibiting the statement that a person is born a man or a woman, criminalizing competition, criminalizing red meat, criminalizing air conditioning, criminalizing beauty, criminalizing all Western thinkers, criminalizing history and its heroes. This is what he claims worldwide Marxism and communism is doing. And it's really hard to argue with it. We don't have people who disagree on policy. We have people attempting to criminalize certain aspects of support for various policy. I don't think it has to necessarily be a Chi-Com Marxist hoax. You don't need to geographically locate it. It's just a Marxist hoax. It's a Marxist ploy. Like I say, folks, the reason I spend so much time on this is because climate change, the issue, has virtually every ingredient and every technique the left uses to impose or sell or accomplish any of their objectives. And if we could succeed in educating and informing people how the left is using climate change, then we could inform and educate people on how the left is doing everything. Because I'm telling you, this issue has virtually every philosophy, every technique, every strategy that the left uses to succeed. It's not true of health care. It's not true of some of the other things the left is constantly pushing, but climate change has everything. It has the guilt of the citizenry. It has the potential for redemption. It has the supposed benevolence of government, and it has an objective: saving lives, saving the planet. Who could be opposed to that? Who is in favor of destroying the planet? Well, you listen to these people, Republicans are. Anyway, let's take another brief strategic timeout. Back with more. Are you ready for this headline? Avenatti in trouble